and my fellow literature enthusiasts. A very warm and heartfelt virtual welcome to each one of you on the 111th anniversary of Queen Mary's College. I am Prithvi Rajan, President in Tandem for this academic year, a full-time research scholar in the Department of English. Today, In Tandem intends to bind you under a theme that is as diverse as translations in Indian writing. In Tandem, in the name of the founder, patrons, advisors, members, professors, students, and participants, overjoyed to screen the theme for this academic year.
Shall I present?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Vinita, yes.
Ma'am, is it audible?
Not yet visible or audible. Now it is, yes. But audible, not audible.
Process of translation.
Ma'am, I'll try to present. Presenting already.
You're presenting, I can't see it. Is it visible? Not audible.
Okay, ma'am.
Maybe you can To play from a laptop, you're doing from a phone. Maybe.
Regional in origin and
Now I can hear
multilingual in
it.
expression. Yet, the magic
Okay, ma'am.
25-26 regional translations in Indian writing. India is not merely a nation, it is a tapestry of regions, each woven with its own language, literature, and cultural identity. From the lyrical landscapes of Malayalam poetry in Kerala to the fierce protest songs of subaltern writings in Maharashtra, from the whispered myths of the Northeast to the classical cadences of Tamil epics, India's literary imagination is profoundly regional in origin and multilingual in expression. Yet, the magic of these regional voices often reaches wider audience only through the transformative act of translation. Translation in India is not just a linguistic exercise, a way of navigating India's internal diversity and external global dialogues. It is through translation that regional literatures speak across borders, caste speaks to privilege, tribal voices confront metropolitan silence, and forgotten women's stories echo in new languages. In a nation marked by linguistic hierarchies and cultural asymmetries, translation becomes a vital means of resisting erasure and reclaiming identity. This theme explores how Indian writing, rooted in specific regional geographies and socio-political contexts, is shaped, reshaped, and sometimes silenced through the processes of translation. It interrogates the geopolitics of language, the politics of inclusion and exclusion, and the role of translation in canon formation, nation building, and cultural memory. In an era where English often serves as a global gateway to Indian literature, this inquiry asks, whose stories are translated, who gets to translate them, and what is lost, found, or invented in the journey from region to reader. By engaging with regional literature and its translations, we uncover not only literary richness but also the spatial, cultural, and political context of the Indian experience, revealing a nation constantly translating itself, one voice at a time. The North has long been a center of political power and linguistic hegemony. Literature here is shaped by the legacy of partition, nationalism, and the battle over language, where translation often becomes an ideological act. It reflects trauma of division and the question of whose histories get canonized. The South is marked by linguistic pride and regional assertion. Here, translation becomes an act of cultural diplomacy and sometimes defense. They resist homogenization by emphasizing native identity and anti-Aryan narratives. The South shows us how translation can function as geocultural self-assertion. In East, the act of translation navigates revolution, reform, and remembrance. Literature has historically set intellectual trends, but geopolitical concerns like colonial memory, Naxalism, and gender justice create tension between center and margin. The East reclaims forgotten epistemologies. The West represents a tug-of-war between capitalist modernity and caste-based critic. The Dalit literature acts as a geo-literary rebellion against elitism and suppressed linguistic histories. The geopolitical tension here lies between urban narratives of privilege and rural voices of resistance, where translation becomes an act of social redistribution. Central India house some of India's richest tribal cultures, yet their stories are the most erased. The geopolitics here is shaped by mineral extraction, displacement, and insurgency. Translating Adivasi oral narratives into English is an act of decolonizing literature. Here, translation is not just textual, it is territorial and existential. The Northeast is a land of whispered myths and loud silences, geopolitically fragmented and often culturally misrepresented. Translation here challenges mainland invisibilization. Here, it is an act of political acknowledgement and cartographic correction. The islands represent the geopolitics of distance and disappearance. Their literature often survives through oral traditions, endangered languages, and ethnographic translation. Translation here is a race against time to archive, to remember, to honor. With this introduction, In Tandem invites you to participate in year-long deliberations, a journey which is bound to be a discovery of India. You can view the annual schedule and can scan the QR code to register your spot in the area of your choice. We earnestly look forward for your involvement.
Thank you. Let's see, I'll just
Yes, ma'am.
has our Debashri ma'am wants to leave early, so we will first have her felicitation and then the principal's address.
Ma'am,
Okay, ma'am.
good evening, ma'am.
Good,
I have joined.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You can proceed, madam. After your speech, we will have them Dr. Debashri's felicitation.
Just now I came,
Thank you
madam.
so much, ma'am. Over to principal, madam. Yes, madam.
Ma'am, ma'am, am I
Yes, madam.
audible?
You are audible.
Okay, ma'am.
Shall we have the welcome address,
Principal's
ma'am?
principal's address now.
Sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Every institution is defined not just by its buildings or books, but by the visionaries who guide its spirit. And today, as we inaugurate In Tandem 2025-26, it is fitting that we turn to a leader who believes deeply in the power of language and thought. We are truly honored to welcome our principal, a torchbearer of academic excellence, a champion of student initiatives, and a constant source of encouragement. Under a dynamic leadership, the idea of chairing original research, interdisciplinary dialogue, and critical engagement has found strong and steady support. It is with great respect I now invite Dr. Uma Maheshwari, the principal, Queen Mary's College, to deliver the welcome address and inaugurate this journey of inquiry and exploration. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Just now I have logged into this platform. First of all, good evening to one and all present on the online platform today. And may I know who said the very good words about me, because just now I logged into this platform.
He's Prithvirajan, ma'am. He's the president for In Tandem for this year. He's Sadhana's research scholar.
Okay. Thank you, Prithviraj, for your nice words.
Thank you, ma'am.
And in fact, I am very delighted to have yet another opportunity to connect with the In Tandem fraternity. And we have made it a custom to begin In Tandem Symposia on every 14th July, 14th July, that is the birthday of our esteemed institution. And today we have completed 111 years and entered 112th year. Last time I addressed In Tandem at the valedictory session. I think it was April last year. The theme for last year, that is the academic year 24-25, was relevant, very relevant to student community. And as the principal, I felt that the last year theme, peace, conflict resolution, and well-being of the planet, which was addressed in the last year's theme, was one from which the students could be benefited. The theme for 25-26 is also very exciting, a kaleidoscope of India presented through the study of regional writings and translations. I am always in the awe of the intellectual caliber of the board reflected in their choice of the theme every year. I see it in every poster of the fortnightly symposia. They have made In Tandem a pan-India forum for all the research scholars. the sheer range of paper presenters and the keynote speakers across the subcontinent, north to south, east to west, is amazing. This is possible only through our erudite board members who have such a high professional standing that they are able to network for our college, which is located in the southern end of India. On this note, I would like to extend a warm welcome to each of our board members present on this online platform. When we are entering into the 5th year of InTandem, we began in tandem with the support of Dr. Aparna Srinivas, Dr. Padma, Dr. Samuel Rufus, and Dr. Sreelatha. Our sphere of influence expanded with Professor Shreya Bhattacharji, who is with the Central University Jharkhand, and Professor Debashri, who is with Jodhpur University, and our board member, Mr. Joshua, has a wide network of professional contacts due to his standing as a translator with the commissions from high-profile publishing houses and his research in the field of Dalit studies. He has always networked to get us good keynote speakers and paper presenters. I thank Dr. Debasri, Dr. Shreya, and Mr. Joshua for making PMC and in tandem known in other parts of India also. Dr. Sivaraman is our friendly neighbor in Presidency College, which is on the same road as PMC, just a few kilometers away. He is more than a good neighbor. He stands by the Department of English in all their capacity building endeavors. I welcome the board members who are from the Department of English, Dr. Shanmugapriya, Dr. Vinita Francis, and Dr. Urmila. I extend a very warm welcome to the Faculty of English who have recently been inducted as board members, Dr. Sadhana, Dr. Bettila, and Dr. Minu. To the patrons of In Tandem, Dr. Samuel Rufus and Dr. Sreelatha, a special word of welcome. Their involvement with our college has been over a couple of years, not only with In Tandem, and they have supported undergraduate students. Professor Rufus has been the patron for Readers Planet since 2021, and Dr. Sreelatha has been very supportive of our Visual Arts Club and Theatre Club. At this juncture, I would like to share that uh, our QMC secured A plus in the recent NAC accreditation. Um, I think in tandem and so much of research club have contributed more to research domain, and which is instrumental for getting this highest grade in NAC accreditation. In Tandem's fortnightly symposia contributed 80 national seminars to the total reckoning. I thank the board members for the contribution to this achievement. I thank Dr. Sivaraman, our board member, who has consented to deliver the welcome address. I welcome the new In Tandem support team president for the year 25-26, Prithviraj, and the secretary Rangumble. Both of them are research scholars at our Department of English, Queen Mary's College. I welcome the second PG students who are the support team for 25-26. Dohita, Sai Kripa, Jeevita, Kanmani, Logeshwari, and Joy Sylvia, who are looking after all the work behind the screens. I welcome the staff of the Department of English and a special word of appreciation to the faculty who have promoted In Tandem as PG tutors. In QMC, we have two ward system. PG tutors of the department take care to ensure that the students principal, I am very happy to see the progress of In-Tandem Research Club. And every year I am very happy to see the expansion of this research club. I wish many more endeavors, many more new topics in the upcoming future. All the very best. Special congratulations and a thank to Dr. Maria Priti Srinivasan, Head of the Department of English, who is instrumental for the successful implementation of so many clubs in Queen Mary's College. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. That was a truly gracious and well articulated welcome. Thank you, ma'am, once again for setting the tone so beautifully.
We can have the felicitations and Debashri ma'am can come first. Prithvi?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Let us now welcome Dr. Debashri Tare, Professor, Department of Comparative Literature, Jawadhpur University, Kolkata, to share a message on this occasion. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much. My apologies, but we've had a slight emergency here, which is why I need to leave. I've known In Tandem and its team for a very long time now, since its inception almost, and it has been extremely heartening and an honor to be part of this esteemed gathering. Further, it has grown in strength through the years through these very important interventions, particularly the think of an India that is inclusive and comprehends diversities in every sense of the word. I am also very grateful to Queen Mary's College for giving us this opportunity to be together at a global and at a national level as well. I'm also very glad that In Tandem can be considered as part of the NAC process as well, because it encourages young scholars to bring out their works in ways that very few academicians around the world do. I'm grateful to Principal Madam. I'm also grateful to Professor Srinivasan for initiating this process, Srilata ma'am, and everyone else who's there in Intandem. It has been a pleasure to be part of it, and I'm looking forward to Intandem, particularly because it encourages young scholars to present their work. It is absolutely wonderful to see that. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you all.
We truly value recognition and good wishes. Thank you, ma'am, for your felicitations. Shall I invite Dr. Samuel
Yes,
Rufus, ma'am?
you can continue. Yeah, you can invite as per your
Yes.
list.
I welcome Dr. Samuel Rufus, Patron in Tandem, Associate Professor, Department of English, Madras Christian College, Chennai, to address us on this auspicious day. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Uh, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Prithviraj. And thank you, In Tandem, for having me here. I'm so delighted to be here actually for the inauguration of this year's activities. Happy to be a part of this wonderful club for the past many years, ever since its inception. And I've been happy to see how In Tandem has grown by leaps and bounds over the years. And today, I'm also very eagerly and excitedly waiting for some of the wonderful talks ahead of us. And the topic for this year also, I'm so happy about the topic of the theme for this year, that is regions and translations in Indian writing. I remember 14th July 2023 also, exactly the same day on 14th July 2023, we had interdisciplinary literary studies. And as Principal Madam also pointed out, last year we had conflict, peace, reconciliation, and planetary well being. And this year we have regions and translations in Indian writing, looking at the importance given to translations today. I'm so happy that a very, very pressing theme has been chosen this year, and special appreciation to the Department of English, Queen Mary's College, and a special word of a round of applause, I would say, to Dr. Preeti for spearheading this wonderful initiative for the past many years consistently with such commitment. And I'm very honest to admit this, that many of our students from Madras Christian College are also have also been benefited by some of those wonderful talks. And even today, I'm happy to see many of them on board. I wish In Tandem all success for this new academic year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your presence and words are real motivation for us. Thank you. Let us now welcome Dr. R.Sreelatha, Patron in Tandem, retired Associate Professor and Head, Department of English, Chellammal College for Women, Chennai, to share a message of encouragement and support. Welcome, ma'am.
Yes, good evening. Greetings to all Queen Marians on your Founders' Day. Congratulations to the principal staff and students for their very recent achievement in acquiring an A plus, right, for NAC accredited, and part of that glory goes to the Department of English headed by Dr. Professor Maria Preeti and her dedicated staff and her enthusiastic students. I'm very happy to know that for the 25-26 in Tandem's theme is geopolitics and criticism, translations from regional languages into English, translations from one regional language into another, from Indian English, which is every region's language, to in India to other foreign languages. Now, it's a theme very close to my heart, and I feel it is very, very relevant. India being a vast country with 28 to 29 official languages and many, many, I don't know how many regional languages, needs to translate itself into as many languages as possible. I think this causes the richness of India's one aspect of the richness of India's diversity, not just its diverse places alone. So the richness of its languages, cultural aspects, thing, it's all of it it will be explored, and I'm very happy about that. Within the space provided here, I think almost all of the themes explored in the past 4 years, that is peace, conflict, planetary well-being, interdisciplinarity, multiculturalism, diaspora's problems, identity, also the prize-winning stories from each language. All of this can be explored here. So translation is communication. Of the regions and the need to understand the culture of each region will, I hope, be explored so that the diverse idea of India will be researched. It will be inclusive, and I hope it will be comprehensible to all. The contributions of publishers like our own publishers like Sahitya Academy, maybe and the Katha, Stri, Nava, Vanya, and many more of the latest ones, including the Macmillan, Penguin, Rupa Harper Collins. All of these also can be explored within this theme, and hope to enjoy every one of these sessions which will be spread over 2025. And for happy that I will be sharing and maybe getting updated with every aspect of this theme of research over this year. Thank you to the Department of English, to the Principal Department of English, and hope this will be yet another fruitful year for In Tandem. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your profound words and generous felicitations. Let me now invite Mr. Joshua Gnanaselvan, Assistant Professor, School of Business, Woxen University, Hyderabad, to address us with this message. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Prithvi. Good evening to one and all gathered here. It gives me immense pleasure to be part of the significant inauguration of the fortnightly online symposium of In Tandem for the academic year 2025-26, hosted by the PG and Research Department of English, Queen Mary's College, Chennai. On this occasion, I congratulate the department
Ma'am expressed that she may not be able to join. So I think she's not on the call. She's in meeting. Yeah.
Preeti ma'am, I'm getting
Yes, good evening. Yes.
calls, madam. Shall I leave
Thank you
the
so
platform
much.
for a
Thank you
while,
so
ma'am?
much.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All the very
Thank you,
best,
ma'am.
ma'am. Thank you.
Now let us move on to the important segment of today's session. It is said that every meaningful journey begins with a guiding voice, someone who not only opens the path ahead, but also inspires us to walk with purpose. Today, as we gather for the inaugural session of our research club in tandem, under the theme Regions and Translations in Indian Writing, we are privileged to welcome such a voice, a scholar whose work resonates with depth and vision, whose insights into language, culture, and regional literature have enriched both classrooms and conferences alike. We are honored to have Dr. B. Sivaraman, Associate Professor, Department of English, Presidency College, Chennai, with us to deliver the inaugural lecture under the topic Understanding the Literary Historiography of Indian Regional Writings. At a time when translation is more than just a linguistic tool, it is a bridge between regions, a dialogue between identities, and often a reclamation of who opened this dialogue than him. On behalf of InTandem team and all participants, I extend a cordial welcome to you, sir, and invite you to share your words, your wisdom, and your vision with us. The virtual floor is now yours.
Thank you, Mr. Prativraj.
Thank you, sir.
I hope I'm audible to all of you.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
At the outset, let me congratulate, not merely for formality, from my heart, of course, the In Tandem Club and the Queen Mary's College for acquiring the A+ uh, grade from the NAC. I'm no stranger to this In Tandem Club. I have been associated with it for the past 3 years. So let me straight away move on to the topic because the time at our disposal is too short. I shall take maximum 20 minutes for the inaugural address, where I shall make certain statements which will be or which should be taken seriously by young research scholars so that you can go on to either prove the statement, alter the statement, or even disprove the statement through your researches, through your papers in the days to come. So, with this word of welcome and appeal to research scholars, let me straight away move on to the topic understanding the literary historiography of Indian regional writings or literature.
Speech mode of demand. Speech mode of.
How do we understand the term historiography and how do we differentiate it from history? That is the first point. All of you know pretty well that history, as the West has taught us, you're all students of literature, English literature, so we proceed merely from the colonial hangover. So it has been taught to us right from our beginning that history is a record of the past in objective terms. Literature, on the other hand, is also a representation of reality in its narrative form. But over a period of time, all the influence of all the literary theories has made it very, very clear that both history and literature are nothing more than narratives. In other words, it is only at this point that both are, right, that both are, of course, representations, narrative representations of reality. So these two converge at this point. So we know pretty well, after the post-colonial era, or due to the post-colonial revisions, right, that nothing can be called totally objective. So we straight away move on to the literary historiography. So when you say historiography, when you say narrative, everything is constructed. The way it is constructed, it was clearly mentioned in the promotional video that the story, whose story is told, whose story is translated, on what basis, all these things, of course, matter. That's precisely what historiography is all about. It's all about the method that you adopt to write history. And that becomes all the more relevant, applicable, and even significant to the Indian subcontinent, which is known for its diversity. Casually, we can all say unity in diversity has become a popular slogan. And in fact, in political arena, it is now unfashionable, shall I say, to make that statement. Because with all the binaries, right, between the region and the nation, right, any proposition or any attempt to say that we need to unify under the umbrella called Indian is likely to be questioned, called into question, is likely to be debated, right, is likely to be even rejected. So under these circumstances or under these conditions, how do we understand the literary historiography of Indian regional writings? I'm going to take into consideration four important Indian scholars who have made a conscious attempt to write the history of Indian literature. Who are those four critics, or who are those four Indian scholars? Before I make a mention of all the four Indian scholars, let us begin with what Lord Macaulay and even before him, J.S. Mill, at the beginning of the 19th century, said about the history of Indian literature. All the books of the East put together are not even worth a shelf of books that we have created from Europe. What an arrogant statement it is. And they made the statement without any knowledge of Indian literature. So it is the colonial voice that is still heard, and it is from this, that we need to proceed to these scholars from India who have made a conscious attempt to write the Indian or the history of Indian literatures. So how do we understand the idea of writing the history of Indian literature? We have so many languages. In fact, there are about 24 official languages recognized. 22 it was, and it is now increased to 24 languages. So how are we to arrive at the unified vision of Indian literature? Is it possible if we just mention it in its plural form and say we have accommodated all the literatures of India or all the regional literatures across India? This is where all these four scholars from India have to be considered in some detail. And I'm going to make a very important statement, as I told you in the beginning. The statement is this: when a unity or when a unification of all these regional literatures is arrived at merely through the confederation of all the history of regions, can we call it the history of Indian literature? Is the question. Is it possible to merely come out with the history of each and every regional literature and put them together and call it Indian literatures? We cannot call it so. And that's where, of course, these four critics or scholars I'm going to use for some clarity. Who are those four scholars? Let me make a mention of them. Each and every one of them is important, because time and again research scholars resort or they look up to Western scholars for the sources. Who are those scholars? I'm going to make a mention of four important of them. Number one is Sujit Mukherjee. Number two is G.N. Devi. Number three is Sisir Kumar Das. And number four is Harish Trivedi. Let me make a mention of all four of them once again. Sujit Mukherjee. His wife Meenakshi Mukherjee came out with a very famous history of Indian fiction called Twice Born Fiction, you know very well. And then G.N. Devi, you all know his contributions to English literature, Indian literature, how he has contributed through his Bhasha Academy to the tribal literatures of India. And then Sisir Kumar Das, I'm going to make a mention of his contribution, and I'm going to depend on him for understanding the literary historiography of Indian literatures or regional writings. And then Harish Trivedi, who was a part of the team that worked under Sisir Kumar Das. So I'm going to make three important points which will help you to understand the
You are not audible, sir.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Sir is coming, joining us. Sir, sir, you can continue, sir. You're not audible, sir.
Your microphone is on.
Ma'am, am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Sorry. Sorry. I don't know where I left. Okay.
Sir,
So
there's these four
this,
people, sir.
yeah. Okay.
Ganesh Devi, Harish Trivedi,
Yeah.
Sisir Kumar Shilji.
58.
Yeah. So on what basis? I'll try to shorten it. I'm sorry for the technical pitch.
No problem, sir. Take it easy.
So, how do we arrive at this Indian literature? Is it merely based on the language? So we have to make a shift from language to people. This is precisely the framework that Sisir Kumar Das has arrived at. And before I make a mention of the framework that Sisir Kumar Das has arrived at, let me tell you the attempts that are made by Sujit Mukherjee in the past, followed by G.N. Devi. Sujit Mukherjee came out with the idea of grouping the Indian regional languages under certain headings, under certain groups which share certain commonalities. For example, the Dravidian languages, the Indo-Aryan languages. So that's how he came up. And when he did it in the year 1975, there were only 16 regional languages officially recognized. 20 by 1980s. So when the Sahitya Academy and the National Book Trust were formed, he mooted a proposal to Sahitya Academy to group all these languages with commonalities under 7 groups, to categorize them under 7 groups. Still, it was not feasible, and he himself said that it is not possible to arrive at the history of Indian literature. Then it was Sisir Kumar Das who came up with this idea of Indian literature. Towards the idea of Indian literature is the essay that Sisir Kumar Das published in the year 1982. And this meeting was convened in the year 1986, where Sisir Kumar Das proposed to come out with the history of Indian literature, not merely on the basis of all the confederation of all the Indian regional languages, but on the basis of the commonalities that you see across India. So how is it possible for us to arrive at these commonalities? So this is where I told you, I'm going to make a statement merely on the basis of what Sisir Kumar Das has said. The statement is, as far as literary historiography of Indian literature is concerned, we need to look for the literature in and of the nation, that is India, linked intranationally with differentiations. It's a very important statement that I'm making now on the basis of what Sisir Kumar Das has said. Is it possible for us to arrive at the commonalities across various regional literatures of India? How do we arrive at these commonalities? And why do we have to arrive at these commonalities? So to answer that question, we need to go back to the pan-Indian status, which was claimed by Sanskrit first, Persian next, and English now. These are the three languages which have acquired the so-called pan-Indian status merely on the basis of the fact that they were spoken across various territories of India, across various regions of India. Still, it could not be considered, they could not be considered the representative of all the regions of India. So Sanskrit had its own limitations because the knowledge of Sanskrit was restricted only to the elite section. The Persian, same is the case. It ended with the rule of the Mughal. And then came English. Once again, it also stretched across various territories of India, but has it become the voice of the people across India? It has not. Still, all these three common languages which have acquired the pan-Indian status cannot be dismissed as merely foreign to India because they have become an integral part of India. So to arrive at this is the first point that I'm making on the basis of Sisir Kumar Das's framework. So these three common languages which have acquired the pan-Indian status are not sufficient to represent the diversity of Indian literatures, but they cannot be brushed aside as merely foreign. The second important point, I'll make it very short. The second important point is how we need to see English as an Indian language, and there was a much talk about this role of English translation of Indian works, and how do we look upon this English translation in the present context? That is the next important point. So there are three models, we can call them indigenous models, proposed by Indian scholars. Sujit Mukherjee.
Absolutely, an important point.
There are three important models proposed by Sujit Mukherjee to write the history of Indian literature. What are they? Number one is the Sanskrit model, which is not enough, which is not sufficient. You have already brushed it aside. Number two is the Hindustani model, which is based on the languages like Hindi, Marathi, Urdu. They share certain commonalities, and they merely belong to the northern part of India. And the third one is, of course, the Bharatiya model, which is proposed by the Sahitya Academy. And the Bharatiya model is for acquiring the pan-Indian status merely by making the history of all the regional literatures available in group. Sisir Kumar Das comes up with a proposal, with a model, right? And he has materialized this model with three of his important volumes. So I'm going to make a mention of all these three volumes and how he has arrived at the periodization as well. And what basis has he arrived at all these commonalities across various regional languages of India? It is easier said than done. How do we? So that's where Sisir Kumar Das formed a team of almost 26 scholars, carefully chosen from all the regions of India. And he prepared a questionnaire, and the questionnaire demanded a descriptive essay from each expert. And every one of them came out with a questionnaire, and he single-handedly worked through all those descriptive answers, essays, and arrived at the methodology. The methodology is this. What are those commonalities? We can see those commonalities both in terms of the extrinsic and intrinsic factors. The extrinsic factors are number one, the movements. For example, the Bhakti movement that happened across India, that spread across India. How each region has responded to this Bhakti tradition. That is one of the commonalities that he has arrived at. The second important commonality is the colonial rule, because it was, after all, the British who unified all the regions of India under one political entity called, or under one political nation called India, geographical entity. And how each region has responded to this colonial rule. Some of them have responded to it in a very positive way. Some of them have negotiated with it. Some of them, of course, have reacted against it. So this is the second important commonality that he sees across India. And the third one, which is much more important, it is the transformation from oral tradition to the print. How has each region, of course, responded to the transformation of literature from oral tradition to the written tradition, to the writings? How have they responded to all this? It is on, so these are all some the examples that I can give of the commonalities that he talks of. Right? So, as research scholars, it is time now. So, I have exceeded my limit.
1909.
You can take some more time, sir.
Yeah, I should have completed by 7:05 because of
No,
the
no,
introduction.
take another 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you so much, madam. So, the important point here is, right, how do we arrive at these commonalities? Number one. Number two is how do we understand the distinction? See, one charge that is leveled against Sisir Kumar Das framework is that merely by insisting on the commonalities across the regions, you are trying to relegate the uniqueness of each and every regional literature. That's one of the charge. But let me tell you, these are not the commonalities that are imposed from outside, from any hegemony or from any authority which is politically empowered. These are the commonalities which have actually emerged from within all these regional that Sisir Kumar Das had single-handedly prepared and distributed across the scholars of various regions of India. Let me tell you, from Tamil Nadu, it was Professor Indra Parthasarathi who responded to this questionnaire. So many others also, but let me make a mention of Indra Parthasarathi because he is still 96 not out. Right? There was a write-up about him in the Hindu just a week ago, just 4 days ago, when he was hospitalized, in fact, while preparing a script for the play. Right, coming back to the point now. So this is the point that I'm trying to say. By insisting on these commonalities, we are not trying to impose anything on these regional literatures in the name of what can be called national literature. So the nation and the region do not become binaries in Cecil Kumar Das framework. That's precisely what I am also trying to impress upon all the young research scholars. There is so much politics happening now that the moment we talk of nation, we are immediately branded as so and so. Because nation is often pitted against the region, and the region is also often pitted against they are projected as binaries in political arena. But that is not the case with literature. We need not look upon nation and region as binaries in literature. Let me tell you, when we take Indian theatre, for example, Indian drama, for example, if you trace the origin of Indian drama, it can be traced back to two distinct traditions which existed simultaneously. The two distinct traditions are the classical and the folk traditions. Right? So the classical tradition is often attributed to Sanskrit, and the regional folk traditions, of course, you have various folk forms across India. If you take drama, we have Terukuthu in from Tamil Nadu. You have Veedi Nataka from Andhra Pradesh. You have Yakshagana from Karnataka, Bhavai from Gujarat, Tamasha or Kerala and from Maharashtra. You have Jatra from Bengal. So you have so many folk forms across India, but they are politically irreconcilable. But when you take drama theatre, they become almost reconcilable because of the commonalities that exist among both the classical and the folk forms of India. What is the commonality that we can talk of? Here, the commonality lies in its stylization. Some of you may take up Indian regional plays as primary text, in fact, for your research. You can concentrate on the stylization because we are not here to make a replica of reality in the name of what is called realism, right? Which the West, of course, try to advocate. We are not trying to make any sort of a false claim to replicate reality on stage. We are here because the Bhagavata or the Sutradhara figures in both folk and the classical forms of Indian theatre share certain commonalities. So how do we arrive at these? And then the open air stage production, which you find both in the classical and the folk forms of Indian drama, can be called a commonality once again. But the way they express their commonality is different from one another. We can take a statement, of course, from the Vedas, where people from different regions speak truth in different ways, but the truth is the same. So how do we arrive at this unity in diversity? So this is precisely what Cecil Kumar Das has insisted on. We need to arrive at those commonalities which emerge from within, so much so that we don't lose sight of the uniqueness of each and every regional literature. So this is precisely the framework that Cecil Kumar Das has insisted on. Sujit Mukherjee tried his level best, but he could not. Very important volumes of this history of Indian literature. And let me tell you, The first volume covers the period from 1800 to 1910. History of Indian literature from 1800 to 1910. It's a huge volume. It runs into altogether 815 pages. It was published in the year 1991. You can make a mention, you can make note of these books because they are of primary importance to researchers. 1991, and the period that he covers is from 1800 to 1910. The second book that he came out, the second volume of Indian literature, History of Indian Literature, came out in the year 1995, which covers the period from 1910 to 1956. And the third volume, he passed away in the year 2003, but this volume was published posthumously in 2005, and it's a huge volume of about 1,000 pages, more than 1,000 pages. It covers the period. Yeah, from 500 BC to 1399 BC, 500 AD to 1399 AD. So these are the periods that he has concentrated on for writing the history of Indian literature. And he has also arrived at the commonalities not only in terms of the extrinsic forms, but also in terms of some intrinsic forms like genres. If you go through the prologue in the first volume, which runs into altogether 25 pages, you will get to know the historiography that I am talking about. And Harish Trivedi, who now teaches in Delhi University, has come out with a review of all these approaches. And this particular review was published in the form of an introduction to the collection of essays published by the Sahitya Academy in the year 2024. And in this introduction, he talks about the indigenous models that I talked about that Sujit Mukherjee, of course, has mentioned: the Sanskrit model, the Hindustani model, and the Bharatiya model. All these three models are not viable for us to arrive at the unity in diversity. You can either call it unity, or you can only call it diversity. You cannot call it unity in diversity. So it is Sisir Kumar Das who has made this unity in diversity in 3 volumes that I talk about. And the framework that I have talked about is about, I told you, the statement that I made in the very beginning. So the search in the post-independence era or in the 21st century, as far as Indian literature is concerned or regional literature is concerned, should be for the literature in and of the nation, linked intranationally by complex commonalities and mutual differences. So in order to arrive or in order to substantiate this particular statement, you need to take up your work, the work of your own choice from any regional language that you choose, and you need to respond to this framework. And when I say you need to respond to this framework, I do not insist on any sort of slavish imitation or a mere mechanical application of this framework. You can either go on to alter it, or you can go on to dismantle it. It is possible for researchers, of course, to come out with their own findings. So, but this is how we can understand the literary historiography of Indian literature. So there is need for us to arrive at this Indian. You can ask one question: should we really have the label called Indian? Why can't we simply say regional literatures. If that is the case, let me ask you a question. When English is spoken across the world, why do we say Australian literature in English, Canadian literature in English, American literature in English, British literature in English? When English is spoken across the world, when all these literatures are written in English, why do they have to give it the label of their nation first and the language next? It is because the language becomes the property of the nation, but more than that, it is necessary, no doubt, but it is insufficient. Therefore, from language, we need to move on to the people, because the literatures that are written in all these regions where English is spoken are actually written for the people. And people have different purpose, people have different taste, and literature caters to all these diverse needs and tastes. And that is the reason why we need to have the label nation, and that notion of nation should not be treated as a mere political construct. Instead, it has to be treated as something that emanates from within. And in a country like India, we have so many nations. That's why it's called Indian subcontinent, Bharata Varsha, we call it, right? Bharata Khanda, we call it. But the moment we say Sanskrit, sometimes, Sanskrit.
We look at the second says in chat. When we inside for presentation, Sivaraman.
Yeah, when we say Sanskrit, sometimes people may say it is the language of the elite. But let me tell you, Sanskrit also literally means well made. It is a combination of so many prakrits. For example, the Abhignana Shakuntalam, which was translated by William Jones in the 18th century, that particular Sanskrit play is made up of altogether 4 different prakrits. You cannot simply label it under one standardized Sanskrit. We talk about the literature of the Dalit. That is also a movement which has influence. That is one of the commonalities that I'm talking about. The Dalit movement, which started from Maharashtra, has started spreading or has spread across various regions of India. And how the Tamil writers have responded to this Dalit movement, how Karnataka has responded to this Dalit movement. That's how you must look at it. And when you see it, of course, or when you respond to this larger framework, you are there to take into account, as I have already said, both the commonalities and the mutual self differentiations, which is possible if only you see it in association with other literatures of India. And that is the reason why we need to have Indian regional literatures. We need not look upon this nation merely from the political perspective. Of course, that is also necessary, but that is not the only perspective. So, with these words, let me wind up this inaugural address. I'll just open it to all the research scholars who will take up their own works of choice and work on it. I look forward to listening to each and every presentation in the days to come. Thank you so much.
Video for Tandem Research Club Depth of English, UNC.
Dear sir, your lecture today has not only launched our event, but also expanded our thinking with ideas to reflect and explore the 3 models introduced and deconstructing the popular phrase about India, unity in diversity. Thank you for such a scholarly contribution, sir. Do you have any queries and questions, ma'am?
The floor is open to
Yes.
professors, scholars to make their observations. And thank you, Sivaraman sir. opening batsman. And I think you laid down the cardinal principles. The idea of India is just too much to comprehend, and to make it comprehensive is so challenging. You've done it so well. I'm sure the professors and students on the call would like to express. Usually, Dr. Sreelatha, she puts it. She also engages in some lively, engaging observation.
Dr. Sivaraman, I wanted to ask you, what about these numerous publications now coming under various heads, some specially for, Stree, Kali for women, for some for that kind of work, okay, and for Indian writing. Uh, some have, so many people have, so there are so many Tamil publication houses that have just chosen to just give only translations, do with translations.
Yeah.
How do you rate all of these? How good are these? How do you think it is a good idea that we have so many of these? What are they vying with each other? For of course, money is always there, but otherwise, are they doing what we all think we should do? That is, translate India to India.
That's right. See, as far as translation is concerned, I need to bring in what G.N. Devi says, because G.N. Devi is a very important
Yeah, he is.
person. He came out with an important article in the year 1993. Thank you for asking this question. And he makes a mention of four important phases as far as the English translation of Indian works is concerned. And these four phases almost overlap with Sisir Kumar Das's periodization. And I need to make a mention of it because I don't. It is a response to your question and not an answer. Right? So the translations, how are when the British were here during the
Indian literatures in English translation is the title of the essay.
Yeah, Indian literatures in English translation is the title of the essay, published in the year 1993. And he says during the colonial rule, right, the British concentrated merely on imposing their models, right. Now, time for us to translate each and every regional work into literature. See, gone are those days when we said English is a window on the world. Now it is the world. It is for the world to know India through English, because English has become almost the Indian regional language. I always call it an Indian language with a Bharat brand of language with a Swadeshi stamp. So when I say that, right, see, Indian translations, when we come out with English translations of regional works, right, we don't have to bother so much about the quality that the British has set or the colonizer has set. Right? First of all, we make this content available to the rest of the world through English. That is point number one, right? But how valid are these things? See, let me tell you. When we read South American writings or Latin American writings, they were all originally written in Spanish. They were later translated into English. But when they enter regional languages of India, it is only mostly from from English translation that they come to India. Indian translation. So this is the point I'm trying to make. So the translations, they do come out, whether it has quality. I think that can take a back seat now. Let us make the content available, and then, of course, as and when people translate it, then the quality will take care of it. That's how I see.
There are prizes for translation too these days. So how these prizes are given? Are they given in the same line as Nobel and all the other kinds?
No. I think Sahitya Academy has come out with the prizes for translation. So
yeah, I read one of that Manoj Kurur's what is it? The day the earth bloomed, that one.
no, even now the Booker Prize is won by a translation only from Kannada.
That
And
also.
also earlier one by in Hindi.
Red
Yes.
Samadhi.
Tomb of Sand. Tomb of Sand.
That's Red Samadhi. Yeah.
Yes. And
Aparna, you want to say something?
yeah,
But Aparna, that book did not get much acclaim. The English translation, though it was hailed by the rest of the world. I don't know whether India hailed it as much.
I think I think in Hindi it was quite well
received. Yes.
in
But
Hindi.
in the English,
Yeah, I mean that will always be there, no?
no, it's
But
Hindi
I think the important point here, more than actually the quality of the translation, I think it's the visibility that Hindi got at a global stage, and now Kannada is
Exactly. Exactly. This is precisely what I meant. This is precisely what I meant when I said, let us not bother so much about the quality of English. English is not, after all, English is not after our native language, but we make our content available, visible to others.
But in that at that level, translations are doing very well in India now. I mean, I read a lot of Malayalam. I find that almost all the Western books are translated into Malayalam so quickly.
Yeah.
I think such speed that I don't think it is available in Tamil or in any other language. So it's there. I mean, so I think people's readership matters a lot.
Yeah, definitely readership. I mean, when you talk of Kerala, obviously Kerala has always been, I mean, the literacy rate and their, they're very, sort of quick to respond and take on things. So, yeah, naturally, the influence of communism and all that. So I think you see all that in and the market size, like you say. So I think all those things come together when you talk about translations.
Sir, I am Achut, and I would like to ask you a question about the place of oral traditions in translation, studies and translation.
The place of all traditions in translation?
Yeah, oral stories, that kind of thing.
No, when you
Yes, the stories that circulate mostly in different regional languages, which appear to be something of a collective storehouse of memory.
Okay. No, my question, I don't know. Let me tell you, I don't know whether I have understood your question. Let me put it this way. Do we really get to know? Do we get to know the tradition of all the regions through translation? Am I right? Do we get to, where is the place for us to know the tradition of all these regional works when we read them in translation? Is that right?
Yes, I was asking because most of the Indian, given the condition of our literacy, much of our literature has been oral.
Yeah.
In that sense, is it not necessary that we attempt a cross linguistic translation, not necessarily always in English, but also of the oral traditions of literature.
No, that's right. See, let me tell you, when we think of, see, painted words, take for example this collection that was brought out by G.N. Devi, right? G.N. Devi brought out this painted words, which is a collection of tribal literatures across India, and they existed, of course, only in oral tradition. Okay, so now we are at a stage where, of course, oral tradition has its own place, but only in its print status. So that is where I think, see, let me tell you one more, give you one more dimension. When we translate folk plays into English, see, for example, Hayavadana, that's a play by Girish Karnad, and Nagamandala, that's also a play. They were, and even Charandas Chor, right? That's a play by Habib Tanvir. But if you look at the origin, if you trace the origin of all these plays, they were actually not written by anybody. They are known for their anonymity, no doubt about that. There is no authorship attributed, of course, into the print status, right? And that too in modern times, they do undergo this change. That is, anonymity is totally done away with, point number one. Number two, the oral text, which was so fluid, has now entered a state of what is called fixity. And above all, the oral performance or the folk performance was peculiar to a particular season, right? In the past, in the pre-colonial times. Now, it becomes a commodity, it becomes a performance available. If it is a public holiday, right? In Chennai, we can have, for example, the Sangam festival, as they call it. I mean, they call it Sangam festival, right? During the Pongal holidays, right? So what Chennai Sangamam, right? Chennai Sangamam, that's what they call it. So which means urban performance becomes urban folk performance here. So these are the certain dimensions that we need to take into account. I'll also give you one more example, because myth is a very important source for all these Indian regional writers. So what happens is, when we reenact the myth in our current times, along with myth comes all the backwardness, the feudal structure, the superstition, all these things also come along with myth. But when the contemporary writer makes use of the myth, right, either in English or in regional, to answer your question now, either in English or in a regional language, what he does is that he purges the myth of all its pastness. He is able to introduce the contemporary element within the myth. To give you an example here, Girish Karnad came out with the play Agni Mattu Male, which is based on the Mahabharata incident. But within the play, he has introduced a character, Nithilai, who calls into question all the Brahminical system, right? So that particular character is so cleverly interwoven into the mythical framework that we are able to see or hear in the myth the voice of the contemporary. So this is precisely what we need as researchers, of course, to look for. So whether there is place or whether there is any scope for a tradition within English translation or within the modern rendering of the oral text, I think it is possible for us to see it in these works, in the works that are written either in regional languages or in English translation.
Thank you, sir.
I think Dr. Aparna wants to say something.
Yeah, thank you, sir. That was a very comprehensive lecture to set the ball rolling for this very complex topic. You have managed to bring it together and give a very tangible framework for young scholars to work on, to take something away and start work on. So I really thank you for that, and
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
you for that. And I also want to add a comment. In several points, I'll try to make it logical, leading one to the other. But India has, always been like a place for translation. Translation is both deep and wide. When I say deep, spanning time, because all our itihasas, we have regional versions of the itihasas. They are, I mean, you can't call them translations. They are probably like transcreations, but there is some influence one to the other. So it's both deep and wide. When I say wide, like spanning so many what should I say, genres, styles, like you very rightly put. When regional literature or literature became print oriented, then there was definitely a certain influence on the style of
Writing,
writing,
exactly, exactly.
of creativity, even in the regional languages. So that point was very important and very beautifully put. So thank you so much for that. The other thing I want to sort of add and perhaps widen the scope of what we call as translation is today the role of the media, and also social media, OTT platforms. They have so many regional, very locally based serials which are in the local language, but you get to enter them through the subtitles. So that is one thing, and also, yeah, media is uh, a lot of churn is happening because people from one region are able to access the news, certain happenings in the other region. So media is also one. The influence translation that happens in these forms that media uses,
Yeah, thank you,
electronic
ma'am.
media.
Thank you for bringing in one more dimension, which I forgot to mention. In fact, that's what discussion is all about. See, translation in the world of, or in the digital world, can now be called remediation. Because remediation is yet another concept that has become very popular across the world. That is the narrative possibility of transfer of the content from one form to the other. See, for example, we make the Ramayana available in anime. We make the Mahabharata stories available in graphics. So that is not that is another dimension of translation, which can be called, which is often called remediation in critical parlance. And we can discuss, of course, the implication of this, or the significance of this remediation in the context of what do you call this translation. So translation in its digital form can be called remediation. That's what I personally feel.
Sir, I have another sort of question to ask you. Like now, even translation is become like AI, chat
Yeah,
GPT,
yeah, yeah.
digital translation is play. So how does that influence
Actually,
the
let me tell you,
The transfer of the narrative possibility.
the transfer of the NASA, there is one person who has come out with the definition of this remediation. Let me tell you, madam, AI, I have been talking to AI. I have been having my continuous conversation with AI. Let me tell you, one problem with AI is that the AI doesn't provide you the benefit of productive struggle. I call it productive struggle because last Monday, one Aruna Shankaran came out with this article in Education Plus, where she talks about the concept of productive struggle. That is, it gives you the ready-made answers, but it doesn't acquaint you with the process of arriving at the answer. So the process of arriving at the answer is equally important. I would say is much more important than arriving at the answer itself. So what happens is that, when we try to translate or remediate all by ourselves, of course, we put in that effort, we undergo that productive struggle, and we tend to learn, gain a lot, of course, during the process, which the AI translation, of course, cannot provide. AI provides you with a model based on the data that are fed into it. So that is the problem. So do we really, but I don't dismiss AI as something irrelevant, useless. I'm not that kind of a person. I'm not an activist, right? I'm not a conservative. But we need to make creative use of that AI to perfect our translation, to perfect our remediation.
Yeah, the joy of having created something goes away.
The process is totally lost. When we resort to AI, the process is totally lost. There are people who say you can, to some extent, approximate to that process by perfecting your art of prompting. But even prompt cannot come anywhere near this productive struggle that I'm talking about.
Yes, that's it.
Shall we wind up? I think people must be hungry.
Yes.
So thank you, Sreelatha ma'am. Thank you, Aparna, for your inputs. Thank you, Sivaraman sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
And all the participants. Prithvi, you can hand over to the next person.
Okay, ma'am. Now I invite Ms. Elakia, guest lecturer, Mary's College, to deliver the word of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. So now we have come to the close of this enriching inaugural session. It is a privilege. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our keynote speaker, Dr. V. Sivaraman, insightful inaugural lecture that beautifully set the tone for this academic year's theme, region and translation in Indian writing, and for her warm welcome address, and Dr. Malyapriti Srinivasan for their constant support and encouragement. A special note of appreciation to the Board of Members of In Tandem, Dr. Samuel Rufus sir, Dr. Sreelatha ma'am, Mr. Joshua Gnanaselvan sir, Dr. Shreya Bhattacharji ma'am, and Dr. Basti Dattare ma'am for their gracious presence and thoughtful felicitations. I also thank all the faculty members, research scholars, and participants who made this gathering vibrant with their enthusiasm and engagement. With this, we look forward to more meaningful discussions and inspiring sessions in the days to come.
Thank you. I have to share some good news with our board members. Elakia, she guest lecturer.
Guest lecturer, yes.
So because of our shift too, we were acutely in need of staff. So 4 of our MA girls are now faculty.
Okay.
So sir, they were all your students last year, and now they are faculty.
Congratulations, all of you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Prithvi just joined?
Prithvi, Prithvi is Sadhana's research scholar. I think he's into his second year.
Haven't seen
third
him
year.
before. Haven't heard of him or seen him online before.
He presented, remember, one session on myth.
Oh, right. Okay. Some some other college was mentioned.
No, QMC
right?
only would have presented as the research scholarship. Thank you, Prithvi. And Prithvi is the president from this year. So you've done a great job. You've started very well. Thank you so
Waiting to
much.
hear you all. Yes.
So thank you all.
Taking part. Speaking and taking active representation in all the sessions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Aparna. Thank you. Srilatha, as always.